Once upon a time, in my early 20s, um, I lived in an Ishkan temple as an Ishkan monk. Um, Now, how did I get there? So I had met these guys um, one day, and I thought it was interesting. I thought they were interesting. I mean, the way they dressed and the robes and all that. And I've always had a spiritual bend, you know. In some people gravitate towards fast cars. Fast cars are cool. For me, even as a kid, I gravitated towards the idea of gurus and monks. Cool for me, right? So anyway, I was working at the time, and I met these guys, and you know, got a phone number, that kind of thing. And the work I was doing was just temporary. So when that ended, I thought, it might be interesting to follow up on this phone number. And so I did. And then they told me how to find their location, gave me a date to do that. I think they gave me a date to do that. But anyway, I did, and it was fairly far away, and I didn't really know the area. I was living in Florida at the time, and so the whole Florida scene being down south, because I was a northern East Coast boy, that kind of thing. So the whole Florida thing was still, even though I'd already been there, several months, it was still pretty new to me. So anyway, I walk off to find where they are. And in my journey to find them, I realized I'm not finding them. I don't know. How am I gonna find these people? I was hitchhiking and walking and all that stuff, and en route to the location I was given, but it wasn't working out. It was like, I don't know, and this is back a long time ago, decades ago. No cell phone or anything. I mean, I'll be like, I guess 67 this year, and we're talking in my early 20s. So there was no like pull it out of my pocket and call those guys or anything. And I'm starting to feel a bit disappointed and frustrated, and it's like, wow, here I am. I just spent a long time, you know, on the journey to connect, and it's like I don't even know, what now. And then I heard like somewhere in the distance a drum, boom, 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 and then it just, then there was a rhythm. I forget what the rhythm was or anything. It was such a long time ago, but I remember the boom, and in my mind, I'm like, that's got to be them, you know. So having nothing else but the idea that if I hear this drum in the distance, I need to follow it because that's got to be them. And so I did, and I was right. I connected. I arrived. I connected, and I stayed in this house for, I don't know, maybe like a week, something like that, because they had to. My idea was I wanted to have the experience of following up um, with their group to, in my mind, you know, learn whatever I could from of the experience of mm, Ishkan. And so I stayed in that house for, yeah, maybe like a week, maybe like I think it was pretty close to a week. And the reason for that really was they needed to feel me out, make sure I wasn't some kind of lunatic or something. Um, make sure I was at least had some level of sincerity in my wanting to connect, because it wasn't every day that they would meet someone that said they wanted to connect. And so eventually I was taken to their temple and went through that process. And in the course of these events, the place that I had worked for, it was it had been a temporary uh, job. Um, they contacted me. I forget how. Mm, oh, well, yeah, I do forget how they contacted me. Maybe I don't even remember. But anyway, oh, because I I had to pick up, yeah, my last paycheck, that kind of thing. And when I did, um, they offered me a full-time, non-temporary position. But I was already connecting with these folks, and I was excited about the journey, the adventure of doing that. Just, you know, in my early 20s, the way my, I guess, heart and mind and intellect, whatever, just works. So I declined the offer of continued employment and continued on my journey. My new friends, if you will, had brought me to get my check. And I let them know that they had offered me um, a non-temporary position. And my new friends were seemingly very impressed. And I guess in a way, it demonstrated to them that I hadn't just tried to hook up with them as a way of saving myself from unemployment and that kind of thing. So anyway, I went to live at the temple. I believe they asked for my check as a donation or something for their, you know, whatever existence contribution. I think they probably did, and of course I had no challenge with that at all. It's like, yeah, go ahead. It was a very interesting experience, and in many ways very enjoyable. I'll share some of that now. Nah, there's no way I'm going to make just 10 minutes out of this video. Okay, I was trying for 10 minutes so I could fit it in a few different places, but nah, we'll just go with it. So, what did I want to say? So yeah, it was very enjoyable. I would go around and do different things with them, and I forget how long before it happened, but probably fairly soon. Um, they wanted to, have me wear their garb, their clothing, the robes and all that, because now I was, what would you call it? Well, I was in the process of becoming one of them, and the time did come, not immediately, but it did come where they wanted to shave my head, and I just wasn't into that. Um, but they kept talking to me about it. They didn't bully me or anything. They just kept talking to me from their perspective of why it was you know um, important to them and all that. And I had hair like back then out to here. I had like a fro going on, you know. And so, interestingly enough, just side note on that, um, I got a feeling, you know, that I must have met some people because we would go to universities and stuff, and you know, do the free food thing, you know, where mm, we would bring food and just feed the students if they wanted to partake. And oh my goodness, the food was so good. I'm telling you, and well, anyway, what I was going to say is I tend to distract myself. I'll go along and then think of a side note and then forget to get back where I was. So if I do that in this video, I apologize. But so what I was going to say is, what with the fro thing going on, uh, I got a feeling there's some people that met me back then when I was wearing the robes and helping to give out, food at the university, whatever. Um, they probably thought they had met Sai Baba. Years later they'd think about it and was, wow, there was this guy with hair and he's wearing the robes, and you know, no, it was just me. But yeah, that was fun and enjoyable. Yeah, and because I mean they all had shaved heads. I was the only one with the whole thing going on, and nice, nice group of folks. Um, I'll share some events from that. I'm certain I'm not going to share everything, but one thing. What was I going to say? One thing. Well, we slept on the floor. I was living in their temple, and there was one room that was our sleeping quarters, and just part of the way they would do things, not because they couldn't afford beds or anything, but part of the experience was sleeping on the hardwood floor. I guess it was part of I forget, like a maybe discipline thing or something. And that was interesting. You can get a blanket and just sleep. I don't know what it's like these days. Things change, but I mean, this is uh, uh, an old religion kind of thing connected to India, one of the offshoots, And one of the things that annoyed me though was, I mean, I was there in my mind. I was there to learn. I want to learn stuff, relating to spirituality, enlightenment, all that stuff. That's why I'm there. One of the things that annoyed me was whenever I had a question, instead of getting what I would consider to be the answer that I was seeking. I mean, I'm talking to this person. Tell me your answer to my question. Um, the people I interacted with would only quote their book. I forget the name of the book. I mean, it was probably the Bhagavad Gita or something like that. I forget it. It's for me. It's a crazy long time ago. Um, but I found that annoying. I kept wanting, answer from this individual that I'm asking the question of. Not just a quote from a book. So now the way my mind worked at the time, and I'm not sure if it still works this way. Maybe it does. I don't know. But well, every day, I think it was every day, we would read Sanskrit, um, and there was just something about the way I was hearing words pronounced that, I don't know, bothered me somehow, and I needed to look up. I guess I was hearing an American pronunciation as opposed to the literal Sanskrit pronunciation, and there was something about it that it just bothered me. And so I started looking up on my own proper pronunciation. And so what happened was, when we were going through our, reading of Sanskrit out loud in the group, I would start correcting people. I mean, I'm new there, man, you know, and I would start correcting people in their pronunciation. You know, it's like, if we're going to say it, let's learn to say it right. And what if you will grew out of that was, and I didn't realize it at the time really, but somewhere in a talk I had with the temple master maybe, or and I forget what the proper term is. It might be that, I don't know. Or yeah, probably, or one of the other monks, or both, whatever. They had decided um, that I wasn't really new to their um, group, or if not the group itself, then perhaps the um, the spiritual essence of the teachings. And I thought that was kind of funny, because yes, I was. I was, I was just there to learn, and you know, but they become convinced actually that I wasn't new, and for some reason I was pretending to be new, you know, and I was speaking to someone there about it, and once again it was probably the master of the temple, whatever, um, and uh, I convinced him, as far as I could tell, that yeah, I was new and blah blah blah, and so he told me that I think he believed me, but he told me that something like, and I don't remember exactly his words, but it was like, because of the feeling they had from me and my presence and the way I did things, um, they felt that I wasn't new in the sense of the overall experience of life or something, that I must be reincarnated and tapping back into a journey I started a long time ago. Please excuse my seemingly in this moment inability to express that better, but it's like that. And I thought that was interesting. You know, I mean, I had a spiritual mindset anyway. That's why that's why I had looked into following this this journey. So anyway, just to shorten this a bit, I mean, time went by, and there were definitely some challenges for me, though. I mean, they woke up really early, and I had chosen to go to their farm, just because I had some previous experience in kind of a farm atmosphere in my other life, if you will, before um, going to Florida. I had an acquaintance that had a little farm, and I had visited, and I thought it was cool. Once again, cool to, like, you know, be on a farm, whatever. But so my choices had been, you know, I could go and be with their group in the city, or the farm. And so I chose the farm thing. And so getting up really early in the morning, and then, like, actually having to, you know, do work, like fix fences, tend the vineyard, things like that, which, you know, is okay enough, because as far as I can tell, I've always had the mindset of sweeping the temple steps, so that's not a big deal. But man, I wasn't used to that either, so I was like tired, man, you know. And also there was this one guy, this one other monk. Apparently, what another monk had told me is, basically this kid, you know, is probably like 19 or something, I forget, And me, I'm just like 20 something, like maybe I'm 20 or 22 or something, whatever. But man, I'd be working in the vineyard with him, and he'd go off, and I'd be doing all the work by myself, you know. And I remember this one. He was like that. I remember this one time. I'm getting annoyed because it's like I've seen him do this before, and I got a feeling he's just hiding out and relaxing, while I'm doing all the work. So I finally had enough. I'm thinking, man, I'm going to go off and say I don't know where this guy went. And as soon as I start walking out of the field, he just magically reappears and walks back into the field. You know, yeah, whatever. But this other monk had told me that he his parents had like dropped him there and given a donation to the ashram to basically just, I guess, keep him there. you know. So I guess in this guy's mind, this kid's mind, I mean, he wasn't there, to follow a path consciously of wanting to learn or anything like that. He was just, that's where his parents dropped him, and they gave money to the ashram to have him there or whatever. But that was annoying, you know. Then there was this other guy. I mean, people were there for their own reasons, I won't go into all that. But okay, there was this other guy. He had like a rifle in the closet. What? What's that about? But yeah, I mean, people were there for their, we all have our way of interpreting our reality and the things that we gravitate towards, and what we're doing with our life, blah blah blah. So anyway, at one point, I had the opportunity to. Oh, and okay, I'll say this first. I'm going to talk about a chainsaw incident, but first I'm going to say, like I said, I was challenged with getting up early and going to do the work. I mean, I was tired, man. I wasn't used to that, and I was like really feeling it. And one day, I just, I mean, I'd seen that other guy, do his thing where he goes off and hides or something. So I, I, I did. I mean, I wasn't hiding, but I was so tired. I just found a place to lay down and close my eyes. And in that process, I was shirking the responsibility of the job I was given, whatever it was, putting in fencing or something, whatever, I forget. And I felt bad about that. So I actually, spoke to the ashram head, whatever. Like I said, I don't remember the terminology. And I told him what I had done, and I didn't like it. I didn't like that I had done that, but I needed to tell him because I wasn't there to be like, uncool or using their hospitality in any kind of, in my mind, negative way. So I shared that with him, and he was very understanding. I forget exactly what he said, but basically it was, it's okay, don't worry about it. Just do the best you can. Everything's fine. You'll get used to it, whatever. So that was cool. Um, so anyway, the opportunity came up for me one day to cut some wood with a chainsaw. Um, as I said, in the past, in a land far, far away, I had an acquaintance that had a little farm. That's where I first learned to use a chainsaw. And so it was, in my mind, oh, cool, because I enjoyed using a chainsaw. And I felt that I had a fair enough understanding of the safety procedures involved. So, it wasn't really scary for me. Just kind of, if I remember correctly, feeling like, oh, this will be fun. And so I went out and did that and was cutting some wood. with the chainsaw. Somehow, um, not sure how it happened, but the chainsaw hit the back of my leg, the back of my thigh, and I immediately, I mean, a chainsaw can be extremely unforgiving, and I immediately snapped my mind into I am not damaged, something that I had learned years ago, just instantaneously, not, anything other than I am not damaged. And well, it turned out that it had gone through um, the jeans I was wearing, but it didn't cut my flesh. Yay. So that was like, that was interesting. It was the first time I'd ever had any kind of a incident with a chainsaw. But anyway, I continued cutting the wood and blah, blah, blah. Then the next day I went out and did it again. And I was all happy that I hadn't been damaged the day before. And then what happened this time was the same leg, the chainsaw came down right here. And it was cold. I was in Gainesville, Florida, and it was a cold day. And I was wearing two pairs of jeans because it was cold. And that sucker went through both jeans and, well, right in front of me. I mean, I saw it, whereas I was able to get away somehow with I am not damaged. Yeah, the day before, this time it happened right in front of my face. And that, like, in my mind, in my reality at the time, messed with the I am not damaged idea because I was, I looked damaged. Um, Also, interestingly enough, I mean, I swear, it felt like somehow the chainsaw was pushed down, and I don't recall if I felt that the day before in relation to the back of my thigh, but that's what it felt like. It felt like somehow there was some force that pushed it down onto my thigh. So anyway, I'm obviously in my in my reality at the time damaged. Now I know not to panic, because that'll just make the blood flow more quickly. So I put down the chainsaw, and there's a trailer near where I'm working. I don't know who that was, but it was some musician, and he didn't have his head shaved because I got a feel. I think he was like famous, but I wasn't even interested in asking who he was or anything. But he lived there in his trailer, musician. And anyway, I knocked on his door, and he opened it, and I said something like, what did I say? I don't remember exactly. It was something like, I don't know, I guess I explained to him, I seem to have, I understated it. I seem to have had a bit of an accident with the chainsaw, something like that. And he looks down at my leg, and he's like, oh. It was, in its way, it was enjoyable to see his reaction. Because I'm being totally calm. And in my mind, it's like, that's what I need to do, to, because the excitement could, make the blood flow quicker, that kind of thing. But his reaction was very gratifying. It's like, I don't remember what I was thinking in my head, but it might have been something like, yeah, man, I am so cool. I'm like all calm and relaxed, and you're seeing this, and you're the one panicking, So anyway, he took me to the hospital, and they did stitches. And so, like I said, I had two pairs of jeans on. One pair was a white pair, nice white pair of jeans. And I tell you, I was impressed. Back at the ashram, they totally got the blood out of those. I mean, it was amazing to me. How did they do that? But anyway, um, after that accident, I wasn't able to walk very well. Um, and so I forget how it came up, but I had spoken to the head of the ashram about the incident, and I forget who initiated that talk. He might have been the one. I think he perhaps was, but he was telling me that it was relating to burning off karma, so that I would be able to, that it was part of my path to continue moving forward, to burn off karma. And he held up his hand and he shared a story with me about when he was new once upon a time, and he was like doing something with a fan, and I don't recall if I'd noticed it before, but he was missing a few fingers, and so he related that story to me about his own experience. And I was thinking, I forget if I was thinking it right in the moment, but I mean, he shared the story to help me understand burning off karma and moving forward, and that our spiritual reality is beyond the physical. And so basically, it's a good thing. Don't worry about it, you know. Um, but somewhere in my head, if not in that moment, but I think maybe in that moment, I was thinking, I gotta get out of here while I still have all my body parts, you know. But um, it was a while before I could walk, easily again. And one of the monks showed me how to use a cane and all that. And what was that? Oh, there was like a big guru guy that came through. When I say big, I mean, he was like somebody, looked up to in the movement. He would go around to different ashrams. And, so it was like a festival feast when he came. And, you know, and as he's like, giving his talk, and we're all like sitting in this big room listening and stuff, he notices that I'm not sitting in the proper way. I forget what the proper way was now. Maybe a half lotus or something. I forget. But I've got my leg out, you know. And so he mentions that, and he's told that I had suffered an injury and my leg wasn't, at that time able to, sit in the appropriate manner, So he was okay with that. He understood that. But what I'm leading up to is, at one point you go up, before him, and he may decide. I forget if he gave it to everybody or not. Probably he did, But he'll decide on the number he's giving you of cookies. Um, he has made these cookies himself, and each cookie is supposed to somehow karmically, relate to a certain number of meditations. So it's a device for accelerating your spirituality, your whatever along the path. At least that's that's the interpretation I was given, and it sounds fine to me. And so I went up, and I've got my leg thing, my leg going on, so I'm like, limping and stuff, and you're supposed to, like, prostrate yourself before him, you know. And if I remember correctly, and I probably did, because I've got a dramatic side to me too. I walk up, and then I just allow myself to fall forward, and right onto the floor before him. I mean, excuse me, but it was impressive. It was nice. I'm uh, I'm really good at that. Another ashram I went to before. I mean, well, after actually years later, um, I did that move again, and I just know, it's like, man, I got that down. But I mean, I'm not um, attempting to misrepresent myself. It's just that when it comes to that move, I felt like I was very good at it. But anyway, I forget how many cookies he gave me, but it was a few, and so I felt very happy about that. Anything really to accelerate my growth along the path, um, except apparently for getting injured or losing body parts. I wasn't really good with that. Yeah. So anyway, that stayed in my head. What the head of the temple had shared with me about his experience and burning off karma, and so that stayed in my mind. I've actually got to go in a minute, so I'll have to wrap this up. But oh, I got to throw this in quickly. Um, nah, I'll save it for another time. Um, yeah, so I decided, once I could walk again, because I mean, well, I decided I was going to leave, and they really didn't want me to. I mean, you know, um, and one of the monks on the night before that I was going to leave, because I'd already decided to leave the next morning, and I'd shared it with him, of course, and different people had spoken to me, about it, and you know, shared their view of you know reality and life and consciousness and reincarnation and coming back and continuing the journey, you know. But the last talk I had was this one monk, and I don't recall what he said. I mean, he was talking to me for a while. We were sitting in the temple room, and he he was talking to me. Very very nice guy and everything. They were all really nice. Um, but anyway, uh, I had told him that I would leave it up to my dreams that night as to whether I would leave the next morning or not. And that's basically the way that part played out. And but he got up at, well, just before I forget that part, turns out my dreams that night actually told me to stay, but I didn't. In a nutshell, what that was about was I had a dream that God, was sitting at a piano. I mean, not long bearded, whatever God, but just whoever was sitting at the piano playing the piano in my dream was God. That's the way it was, and was singing, "You never give me a chance," and that was easily interpreted by me the next morning when I remembered my dream, which I did as soon as I awoke. That leaving it up to my dream was literally telling me to stay. You never give me a chance, whatever. But anyway, that night, as we ended our conversation, and I had said I'll leave it up to my dreams, whatever. He had me come over to the door as he was leaving, and he walked a few feet away from the door and turned to me and said, "What do you see?" And I forget what I said. I said, I guess I see you, blah, 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 blah. And he walked a few more feet away, and he turned and he said, "What do you see?" And once again, I gave my answer. And he did that several times until finally he was beyond the light of the door and I couldn't see him anymore. He was in the darkness. And he once again had turned and said, "What do you see?" As his voice came out of the darkness to me, I once again responded, but this time my response had to be different because I could no longer actually, say that my senses were interpreting his physical, presence in the light, whatever. And that's when he said, and I don't consciously remember, and I haven't for, it seems, ever, what he said, but this whole thing had been leading up to what he said when it had changed and I could no longer see him. And he gave an answer that, excuse me, but just had to be profound in a, a monk kind of sharing way. And what was it? Don't know. But anyway, I did leave the next day, and the head of the monastery, had shared with me that he felt someday I would return, whether it was in this life or another, since he was convinced that I had returned, at least for a little while in my journey.